Welcome back. I am cruising along at 70 miles an hour on the New Jersey Turnpike. And if you follow this channel, you know what that means. I am doing a 70 mile an hour highway range test on a new electric vehicle. Today I'm in a 2025 MINI Countryman SE All4. The Countryman has a 66.5 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's the gross capacity. The usable capacity is 64.7 kilowatt hours. So they give you almost the entire pack capacity. A very high percentage of the pack is usable. So I have around 64 kilowatt hour of usable capacity here today. The combined EPA range rating for this vehicle is 212 miles. And that's because I have it with the standard 18-inch wheels. If I had the optional 19-inch wheels on this vehicle, it would drop down to 204 miles. That's the combined EPA range ratings though. Since I'm on the highway, I like to try to compare it to the highway EPA range rating. And in the case of the vehicle I have with the 18-inch wheels, that's 206 miles. The city EPA range rating is 217, and that's how they come up with the combined rating of 212 for the Countryman SE All4 with 18-inch wheels. This is a dual motor all-wheel drive vehicle. Has 308 horsepower and 364 pound-feet of torque. It goes 0 to 60 in somewhere around 5.3 to 5.4 seconds. So it gets out of its own way. While it's not one of the fastest electric vehicles on the market, it certainly is no slouch, and it's actually pretty fun to drive. It does weigh 4,588 pounds, which is chunky for a small car, but electric vehicles do weigh more than their combustion counterparts because of that large battery pack. All right, well, I'm on the New Jersey Turnpike. I'm going to be driving up and down in long loops to see just how far the 2025 MINI Countryman SE All4 will go at 70 miles an hour. Let's get into it. All right, so as I said, I'm on the New Jersey Turnpike, cruising along at 70 miles an hour. But I always like to talk a little bit about what I do to set the car up, what preparation I do to make sure that this range test is fair when you're comparing it to other range tests. I try to do the same thing with all the vehicles that I range test here. Now, of course, there's some things that are out of my control. Wind, ambient temperature, sometimes even traffic. But today seems like we have a nice clear day so far, at least, and there won't be any slowdowns or anything like that. But what I can control, I do. So let's talk about that. First up, I always make sure the tire pressure is set to the manufacturer's specified tire pressure, which I did. We're all good there. I then check the speedometer to make sure that it's accurate, which most of the time it isn't. Most speedometers are not accurate once you get up over 50 miles an hour. And there's a reason for that. And that's because here in the US, the manufacturers will get fined if the speedometer reads slower than what the vehicle's actually traveling, because then the person could be speeding when they didn't think they were speeding. So they're allowed to have the speedometer up to 5% fast. And most manufacturers take advantage of that and set it just a little fast. MINI did. This is 72 miles an hour on the speedometer is actually me driving at 70 miles an hour. And I know that because I have a few GPS apps and I test it to that. So we have the cruise control set to 72 miles an hour and we're cruising along at 70 miles an hour. I also set the climate control to somewhere between 68 and 70 degrees, and on the most efficient setting, which I have here today, I have it set on the very low fan setting and 70 degrees, which will be enough to keep me comfortable in here today. There's things I can't control like wind and ambient temperature. We do have a windy day today. It's actually about 10 miles an hour and it's a tailwind right now. So this first part of the range test is going to be aided by the fact that we've got a 10-mile-an-hour wind pushing us. But the temperature is good. With starting off the range test, it's about 66 degrees, but it's going to get up to 80 degrees today. So that's a very warm day for end of March in New Jersey. And the last thing that I do is always set the vehicle in the most efficient driving mode. In the case of the Countryman SE, that's the green mode. There's 7 different, well, they call them experiences. They don't call them modes here in the Countryman SE, and it's interesting. The green experience is the most efficient driving experience, as you might expect. And I think it's interesting enough that let's take a quick look at the 7 different driving modes that MINI offers on this center circle display screen here, because they have 7 modes, plus they have a personal mode that you can set yourself. But we'll take a look at the 7 different modes and what they do. First is the core experience, and that's the standard mode. And it features a modern Laguna color theme for the interface and ambient lighting. Next, we've got go-kart mode, which MINI says is designed for a fun, engaging drive with stiffer steering and increased accelerator pedal sensitivity. Notice there is audible alerts when you change these driving modes. And next I'll go to the green driving mode, which is what I'll be doing the range test in. And this mode focuses on efficiency, maximizing range, and highlighting sustainable driving with a green hued theme. Next is Vivid. MINI says Vivid allows your car to match the music by using colors and light projection sourced from the cover artwork of your media. Notice I don't have any media stored in here because I just got the car on loan. Next, we're going to look at Timeless. Timeless recalls the heritage of the MINI brand with a serif font and large dial, presented against a bright background. And next we'll go to Balance. The Balance experience features understated animations and colors in a calming blue-hued theme for ultimate peace of mind. And finally, we'll look at Trail. Trail taps into a love for exploration with natural-inspired lighting and a visual reference to a compass. All right, well, I'm going to continue driving here and check in, as I always do, every quarter of the range test. So my first check-in is going to be when we're at 75% state of charge. See you then. All right, checking in at 75% state of charge, so we're a quarter of the way through the range test. We went 54.4 miles in that segment, and we're averaging 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. But I need to mention something. The wind is a little bit higher than usual today. It's around 10 miles an hour, and right now it is a strong tailwind. It's pushing us down the road. So I'm thinking this might be the best segment of the range test. We'll see how the wind changes during the day, but right now we're really getting aided by the wind. So 54.4 miles, 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. That might be the best or one of the best segments we have. We'll find out as we continue on. But one last thing I wanted to mention. I was talking earlier about how the manufacturers set the speedometers to read slightly slower than your actual speed. And I mentioned that because people sometimes talk about, well, then the range test at the end, the mileage is wrong. But I failed to mention earlier that that's not correct, because the manufacturer doesn't tether the odometer to the speedometer directly. So they understand that the speedometer is going to be reading a little bit slower. The vehicle is going to be going, it's going to be reading faster than what the vehicle is going, and that's calculated. So the odometer should be correct, or very near to being correct. It's not the fact that I have to set it 2 miles an hour faster. That means that we actually didn't go as far as the odometer is going to read. So I mentioned that because in some of my previous range test videos, people commented and said, well, if the speedometer is 2% off, then you've got to deduct 2% from the odometer, and that's just not the case. Manufacturers intentionally set the speedometers to read faster than what you're going, but they don't do that to the odometer. All right, we'll check back in at 50% state of charge. All right, checking in at 50% state of charge, and we've gone 104.5 miles. So that means I went 50.1 miles from 75% down to 50%, about 4 miles less than what we did in the first quarter. And our consumption rate now is down to 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour from 3.6, from 100% down to 75%. And that's because I've turned around and now I'm getting a headwind. So that's what I figure. The wind absolutely is making a difference. I'm guessing that our true consumption should have been around 3.5 because it was 3.6 going one way, 3.4 total the other way. So we're probably averaging somewhere around 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour if I didn't have this strong wind. The good news is it looks like the wind is getting lesser now, so that could be less of an issue. And also it's getting warmer now, so we're up into the 70s. So it's a nice, bright, warm, sunny day. Hopefully the wind will subside a little bit, but those things we can't control. And listen, everybody drives in wind and all kind of conditions, so I don't try to do this in a vacuum because nobody drives in a vacuum. But you know, other than that, you know, we're still tracking more than 200 miles, which is going to get us close to the EPA combined range rating and probably beat the EPA highway range rating. We'll see. But the EPA doesn't use constant speed when they do their ratings. So, and they don't even drive at 70 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure it's much less. I only use the EPA as a barometer because that's the only thing we have. That's the official range rating of the vehicles. I don't try to beat it or do less than it. It's just kind of a measuring stick that all EVs are rated in. So that's what I use to compare it to. But I'm not trying to prove EPA right or wrong when I do my range tests. That's not what it's for. It's just to give you guys a good idea of what you might see when you're driving in similar conditions at this speed in these different electric vehicles. So check back in and the final checkpoint at 25% state of charge. We'll see how far we've gone. This video was sponsored by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charger you're going to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But in order to have the deposit waived, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. All right, let me flip these up. Checking in at 25% state of charge. We've gone 162.5 miles. So that means from 50% down to 25%, we've gone the farthest that we have in any of these quarters. We went 58 miles, and it's warmer now. The wind has died down, so I think it's only about 4 miles an hour now. So we're cruising along, and the MINI Countryman SE All4 is doing really well. We're tracking well over 200 miles, and our consumption rate now is 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So if you do the math with that, that's definitely going to beat the EPA combined range rating. So I think we're on course for that. I think we're on course for, you know, somewhere right around 220, which will be fantastic for the Mini Cooper Countryman. It's a fun car to drive. I mean, driving at a constant 70 miles an hour is not that fun, but it's relatively quiet. It's not the quietest EV that I've ever had. And I tell you, when I had the headwind earlier, it was noisy in here. You could definitely hear a lot of wind noise when I had that 10 miles an hour coming right at me at the cabin. So the only other thing that I'll talk about the car with is the ADAS system. Really bothers me. It constantly nags. I mean, if I sit here with my hand on my knee, holding the steering wheel and just going straight, I tell you, almost every minute, it just keeps reminding me to grab the steering wheel. And I'm like, I'm grabbing the steering wheel. I'm going straight. There's no need for me to move the steering wheel back and forth, but I think that's what it wants you to do, to know that you're there. And I'm holding the steering wheel not loosely, you know, gripping it, but it just keeps saying, grab the steering wheel, grab the steering wheel. It hasn't made it a pleasurable drive. I think that would really bother me if I owned one of these, to be honest with you. It seems much more intrusive and nagging than most ADAS systems are, and it's unnecessary. I'm driving straight up down the highway. I got my hand on the wheel. It just keeps telling me to grab the wheel, and I got to take it and shake the wheel just so it knows that I'm there. So that's an annoyance that I don't know if I could live with, honestly. It's been really bothering me this whole trip. All right, well, last check-in's going to be when I'm off the highway and just about at the charging station. We'll drive the last mile together and talk about the range test overall. Okay, well, I'm off the highway now and in a construction zone of just stop and go traffic. And the last few miles haven't been the best. When I was, I think, about 3 miles from the exit on the turnpike where I'd get off to finish the range test, I hit a wall of traffic. There was an accident. I knew it was coming. I was watching on the GPS on Google Maps, and there was an accident. I was hoping it would clear. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where it was like a 20-minute delay to go 3 miles. So I hopped off the exit before. The only problem with that is it's about 2 miles further because you go out and then back, and I can't drive at 70 miles an hour. It's 50-mile-an-hour roads, so I was driving maybe 60-ish. That was the flow of traffic, and so the last 6 or 7 miles was not at 70 miles an hour. It was a little bit less in the 60s. And now that I'm on Route 18, I have 2 miles to go. I'm at 1% state of charge, and I'm in this construction zone, so I'm just crawling along. Actually, just clear it up. I'm actually doing 59, 60 miles an hour now, so getting close to 70, but I won't do 70. I'm less than 2 miles now from the Electrify America charging station, and there's traffic lights and everything. So yeah, we're at, let me see how many miles we're at. Still at 1% state of charge, and I am at 218.3 miles. So we have already exceeded the EPA range rating of 217. Looks like we're going to finish up at like 219 because it's about a mile away. The car's saying I have 2 miles of remaining range. So if I wanted to, I could drive around the parking lot just to hit 220, but I probably won't do that. Because this last couple of miles, since I went a little bit slower than 70 miles an hour, I'm not going to give that back to the car, even if it ends up with 1 mile of remaining range. That's where we'll call it. Looks like it's going to be at 219, and we are going to make it. So I'm at 218.5 miles now, and it says I am 0.7 miles from the charging station. We're in reduced power, although it's been in turtle mode, reduced power now for the last 7 or 8 miles, but it still has some juice. It's not too squishy yet. So you know, I think that it probably has 3 or 4 miles left in it, to be honest with you, even though it's reading 2. I can't imagine it having a big low end buffer because MINI uses so much of the total capacity. There's only it's less than 2 kilowatt hour difference between total capacity and usable capacity, and that's for both top and lower end buffer. So there can't be much left at the bottom, unless in their logic they have this reading at 0 when there's still 3 kilowatt hour left, which could be the case. They could have a little extra down there, but there's no use in me driving it out now. If I could still drive at 70 miles an hour, I would. But if I tried to go to another exit and come back, there's no way I would make it at this point. So sometimes I get perfect and I end the charging, the range test, right when we're at 0 and the car's about to die. I do that by trying to pick the exits to take off at and make these loops all the time. Sometimes you can't do it, and today I'm not going to be able to get it right down to 0. But and it also hurt that last couple of miles I was in a major accident. Well, I got off right before the traffic. I could literally see it up ahead on the turnpike, but I jumped off because there's no use in sitting in that. That would just really be a disaster if I had to sit in 20 minutes just to drive 2 miles to get off the next exit. But that really doesn't affect the range test. We're going to be right around 219 now, so anywhere between 215 and 220, I feel comfortable saying that you should be able to repeat in one of these vehicles with a fresh battery and similar conditions as today. It's really nice out. It's 81 degrees now. So they said it was going to get up to 80, so it did. And we started out in the 60s, but all day it's been getting warmer and warmer. The wind just went away, so the wind hasn't been a problem in the second half of the range test. And the Cooper SE Countryman really did a good job here. All-wheel drive, stock wheels. The 19-inch wheels would do a little bit worse, maybe 5-6 miles worse, but this did really good. Beat the EPA range, 220 miles at highway speeds. Remember, if you're trying to stretch out your miles, you're on a road trip somewhere, the easiest thing to do is go slower. You make such a difference. I mean, if I went 60 miles an hour today for the whole day, I bet I would have went 20 miles farther. If I went 80 miles an hour, I probably would have ended up at like 180 or something like that. That's how much of a difference it makes. That extra 10 miles an hour makes a huge difference. So if you're really worried about making your destination, or you're trying to squeak out every last mile you can, the easiest thing you can do in any EV is just slow down. It makes a huge difference. I did a range test with a Cadillac Lyriq, and I drove it on, I think it was consecutive days. I did a 70 mile an hour highway range test, and then went back the next day and did an 80 mile an hour range test with the same vehicle. I think it ended up going like 60 miles less at 80 miles an hour. That's how much of a difference it makes. So conditions, ambient temperature, wind also play a big role, but you can't control that. But you can control what your right foot does. And if you're trying to eke out every last mile, just slow down a little bit, and you'll make it. All right, I'm going to shut the camera off now because I'm just sitting in traffic. I'll turn it back on when I'm pulling into the charging station up at Walmart. All right. Okay, well, I'm pulling into the Electrify America charging station here at Walmart, and it looks just about full. There might be one open stall. Let's see. Let me check the battery now. 0%, and it says 1 mile left. So, and now it's getting more squishy. Now the throttle pedal is like really getting to the end. So we timed it pretty closely. Let me see here. Do we have any stalls? It looks like they might be all full. Oh, there's a Silverado EV. Nice. Actually, this first stall here, charger unavailable. Of course, the one that's open is unavailable. Yeah, so we're full. There's an Equinox, an Ioniq 5, a Kona, regular old school Ioniq, an iX, a Tesla Model 3, another old school Ioniq, and then a BMW iX. So let me pull up over here, and I will sit and wait to plug in, and we'll do a recap. And I'm getting hot here now because the air conditioning has turned off. It turned off maybe 2 or 3 miles ago, I guess, because we were at such low state of charge. So let me see if I can open up the windows and put it in park. Okay, that's it. Let me get my camera. Let me see where we're at. Okay, battery is at 0% state of charge. Let's see here. And 1 mile of remaining range. All right, and then let's go to our trip. The trip here is saying 219.2 miles. So it's 1 mile remaining. So let's take a look at this. Let me write this down. 219.2. We finished up at 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, like I thought we would. Okay, so that means we were at 162.5. So if my math is correct, that would mean 56.7. Let me see, 56.7 on top of this would be, yep, 56.7 miles in that last trip. So that means in the 4 segments, we went 54.4 miles, then 50.1, then 58.0, then 56.7, to end up with 219.2 with a 3.5 mile per kilowatt hour rating on our 70 mile an hour highway range test. And we ended up with 1 remaining mile. I bet you that we could squeak out 2 or 3 though, because I'm sure there's some sort of a low end buffer. And let me think, if you do the math, so we have 64.7 kilowatt hour of usable energy. So if we multiply that, let's do the math really quick. If we were able to access all of it, 64.7 times 3.5 would be 226 miles. So it would be 7 more miles than we went now. So, you don't always have all the capacity, even though this is a new car. So that pretty much shows that we're pretty drained. If anything, there might be a kilowatt hour left in there, but that's it. So I'm comfortable calling it at 219 miles. Good showing for the Mini Cooper Countryman SE All4. I think that beating the EPA range rating is always good when you do that at a constant 70 miles an hour, and it did that. So good job here. It's a cool little car, quirky. Minis are quirky. There's things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. I really didn't like how it nagged. It really seemed like that was excessively nagging. And I'm not in love with how my Android Auto pairs with the system. It seems like I have to keep repairing it. It doesn't remember the phone. I don't understand why it doesn't do that, but I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I've paired my phone with a lot of cars, so unless this has a different way to do it, and I've done it with other Minis before, but that was kind of annoying. That seems like almost every time I shut the car off, I have to repair it. But then sometimes I don't, so I don't really get what's going on there with it. Maybe that's part of its quirkiness and its appeal, but I didn't like that quirky part of it. Nice car driving on the highway, relatively quiet, not the quietest of all EVs, but not bad. Ride quality was pretty good. I really just got it, so I haven't driven it much. I'll know a little bit more after I spend some more time fooling around with it around where I live. First thing I wanted to do was this range test, because today was going to be the nicest day of the week that I had it. So it's going to rain the next couple of days. You don't want to do range tests during the rain. And today was going to be 80 degrees, so I got it out of the way. All right, well, that's all we have for our Mini Countryman SE All4 range test. 219 miles at 70 miles an hour, and beating the EPA range rating by a couple miles, which is always good when you do that. I'm going to have some charge recordings on this vehicle coming up soon, probably in a week or two. I'm going to do a 10 to 80% charge recording, which Mini says can happen in 29 minutes. We'll see if they're correct with that. And then also a 0 to 100, I'll map out the full charging curve. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.